let's move on to step 5. You probably recognize this gentleman here. Of course, it's Albert Einstein. And Albert was probably one of the smartest men ever to walk the face of this earth. And Albert was a professor at Princeton University. He taught there for about 20 years. And funny story is, during the 3rd semester, his fellow professors came up to him. They said, Albert, you have to change things up a little. And he said, what do you mean change things up? And they said, you've given the same final exam questions for 3 semesters in a row here, and these kids are smart. They already know what your questions are going to be. Albert thought about it a little bit, and he actually responded. He said, I'm not going to change the questions up because the answers keep on changing. Isn't that the truth? It's just like life today, with our answers keep on changing. The tax rules and regulations change all the time. So I, congratulate you because you're, participating in this webinar, learning about the new tax laws and regulations. The investment markets change all the time. We can have a growth market, we can have a bear market, we can have a recession, depression, whatever it might be. Those things keep on changing. Now, the other couple of things that were kind of fun about facts about Albert Einstein, somebody asked him, what he thought the most difficult problem to solve was, and he said the income tax code. So even somebody very smart couldn't figure that out. They asked him what he thought the 8th wonder of the world was, and he stood in his tracks and he said compound interest. So I'll actually bring in one of those examples as I go through the rest of these slides. And the 4th thing that was quite profound that he said is that the mind that got you into this problem isn't the same mind that can get you out of the problem. So what does that mean? Well, it means that oftentimes we need collaboration or a different viewpoint or a professional to help us with our situation. So I'm going to tie a little bit of that into our step 5 of the presentation. And that's going to be retirement goals planning and tax mapping strategy. Where you begin with all of this, we always want to start with our goals in mind. Everybody's situation is going to be unique in that area. If your goal is to be in a 0% tax bracket, well, that's simple to solve. I'll just say, okay, well, take nothing out of your retirement accounts and just draw your Social Security. Voila, you're in a 0%. Well, you might say, well, that's not quite what we had in mind for goals. Of course, we're going to want to do some things with our money, and we need to establish those goals early on. Retirement income planning, that's going to be pulling all our assets together and figuring out the best strategy, along with our tax reduction strategy. And our risk management strategy is important also. How do you protect these assets long term? Now, I like to, I'll go through a case example here of a couple. Their name are Jack and Sue, and I've known them for quite a few years. And actually, Jack and Sue, they update their retirement plan and tax map on a yearly basis. So here's what they had for, actually in 2019, last year, their needs, wants, and wishes. That's how we break it out. The needs, quite simply, would be your day-to-day living expenditures, hang out at home, food, clothing, shelter type of thing. In their need category was a car this year, but oftentimes we think a car is more of a want, where you can vary the timing behind it and the amount you spend. So a car could be anything from $30,000 to $150,000. It could be something that you might be able to get a few more miles on your other car. So it's more of a want, in my opinion, but because they waited so long, it's a need in their case. And then you have the wishes. The wishes would be things that you'd really like to do if there's enough money. So Jack and Sue, they need to have $48,000 a year, $4,000 a month spendable income. They need to have a car this year, which is $30,000. They want to do home improvements of $25,000, a kitchen remodel. Their wishes are to do a Hawaiian trip on their 50th wedding anniversary, and they've always wanted to have an RV to travel the national parks. So what we do is we say, okay, well, let's figure out the most tax efficient way of getting this money out of your plan. And as you know, our Social Security benefits, they have $48,000 a year coming in Social Security benefits. And by itself, Social Security benefit is not taxable. Zero due on that. Okay, that makes sense. Provisional income doesn't exceed those thresholds. Next, we say, okay, you have your Social Security coming in, $48,000. What if we took $1,000 a month out of your IRA and then this year realized a $20,000 long-term capital gain on some stock that Jack and Sue have owned for a long time? So going back to the tax map strategy, what we found is the $80,000 of income they're now pulling in to cover their needs, wants, and wishes. There's only $121 of federal tax due on that. That's some very efficient tax planning for this couple. So, in addition to that, here's a sample plan of a gentleman that was approaching retirement, and he retired from the state. So he had a pension availability along with Social Security and some deferred resources. So what we did here is we use our planning program to first figure out if he's going to have enough. And the projection was that he has a 99% probability of success, that he has plenty of money built up for his future. After testing the heck out of the plan, what the result was is at age 90, based on what he has available and his income needs, he'd actually have $1.7 million compounded out in value at that point in time, which in today's dollars is actually about $946,000. So his situation, he's going to have plenty of money for retirement. But then what we did next step is we said, okay, well, what can you do to better the plan? And his decisions were, okay, well, when should I draw Social Security, and should I do retirement plan conversions into a Roth IRA? So we took it another step and we said, okay, well, what if you started your Social Security at age 64, but between now and then you did Roth IRA conversions? And without changing the rate of return on his investments, now he's improved his plan from $1.725 million to $2.24 million. So he's improved his plan by a $500,000 amount. That's pretty good. And plus, it's an additional amount that would go tax-free to his heirs in those Roth IRAs. From there, we said, okay, well, let's do another scenario. And we said, if he were to defer Social Security all the way to age 70 and do as much in Roth IRA conversions each year as possible, well, now it's improved his plan all the way up to $2,390,000, which is a $700,000 jump in the amount of money that he has in the future. So going back to Albert Einstein's example, compound interest really adds up. And when you combine it with forward tax planning, what you're doing in essence here is you're reducing your biggest expense that you have in your retirement plan. And that's the government standing there every year and saying that they want 30% of your net worth. So take advantage of the roadmap to your retirement plan and the tax mapping strategies, which are going to be available to you complimentary at the end of the workshop. You probably recognize this mountain. This is Mount Everest. It's one of the highest and most difficult mountains in this world to climb. I don't know if it's on your wishes list to climb Mount Everest or even trek Mount Everest, but it's a very difficult endeavor that you'd probably want to have a lot of planning and expertise in order to do so. So when you're approaching retirement and headed toward that summit of retirement, it's a whole different skill set building up and saving and putting away money pre-tax into your retirement plans than it is drawing out of those income plans. So throughout your life, you're going to have many different peaks, you're going to have many different summits, but once you've summited at retirement, it's going to be a whole different ball game in figuring out what to do next. Interestingly enough, on Mount Everest, where do most climbers die on Mount Everest? Is it ascending the mountain or descending the mountain? The answer is actually descending the mountain, believe it or not. Wouldn't you think it's simpler to go down a mountain than up a mountain? Well, I guess from what I hear, there's different things that can happen when you're descending the mountain. One might be that you run out of oxygen, and that could be a similar thing to like the IRS kind of choking the taxes out of you throughout your retirement years. Or it might be a snowstorm or avalanche or some crazy weather pattern hits. And that today would equate to a bear market where the stock market goes down 35%, which we just saw with the coronavirus outbreak. Could be a recession, it could be a depression. So how do you survive catastrophic black swan events like that? Or maybe it's darkness sets in. You just didn't summit and peak soon enough. And so every step that that climber takes, they're at risk of not seeing where they're going. And that, to us could be, things like you reach retirement and there's inclement health conditions that, where you're at risk and you don't know how to handle these types of things. So going back to the Albert Einstein, oftentimes we want to collaborate with other minds in order that we can improve upon our journey. And so our investment company called Summit Investment Advisors is where the brightest of goals meet the brightest of minds. So I hope I've demonstrated some of my expertise today so that you would want a real expert to help you with your journey. In summary, we've covered 5 different steps to the planning process. We talked about the tax brackets, ordinary tax brackets, as well as qualified dividends and capital gains. We've looked at the deductions and tax credits as a way of reducing your taxable income. RMDs, we talked about Social Security taxation. From there, we looked at tax mapping and investment and income planning opportunities. Now, if you would be kind enough to fill out the evaluation form, which you can see on the side of your screen, click on that, and then that'll make you eligible where we'll send out these bonus opportunities for you. We're going to send a special gift of bonus content, and that's going to be the different tax charts that we covered today, along with any white papers that you want further in-depth studies into. In addition to that, we're going to send you the link for a flip book to help with your retirement income planning needs. Second thing here would be a no obligation review of your plan over the phone or by video conference. That's going to be with a certified financial planner who can answer any detailed questions that you might have about your specific situation. Again, no obligation to that. Third thing here would be a complimentary roadmap to your retirement plan and tax analysis. So if you have not updated your plan or would like a second opinion or haven't had a plan done at all, take us up on that, and we'll help walk you right through it over the phone and by video web conference. So thank you again for attending, and once again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions.